This conference will now be recorded.
We almost did it.
Are you gonna have Henry do something?
I was gonna do it. You're gonna.
Oh man, you guys are. Girls, you gotta get.
Let's not start. This is all very collegial. We love each other here. Okay, so.
Oh, absolutely. Vanilla, would you lead us in pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, Carl's not there.
I know, absolutely. I was waiting for it.
Me too.
I was
Maybe
thinking, am I supposed to
Judge
say it?
Guevara can, Judge Guevara, do you want to say what Commissioner Robinson says? God bless America.
What is it that he says? Oh, yes. God bless America.
There you
God-
go.
USA.
Go ahead, Tom.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
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 Hello, this is Commissioner Robinson.
Commissioner Robinson, do you want to show that nice face of yours?
I'm trying to get my audio, my video working right. I can hear you, but my video is not working good. Very good.
Wherever you-
Video's working. Video's working, sir.
we just saw somebody pass by.
You did?
Yes, sir.
Goes to Carl
If you go to
Robinson,
that
just-
place, we can see.
We can see you, sir.
Well, we can see the background.
It's like the invisible, like where they just have the glasses floating around.
So we do have a quorum, so we can get started, but when he steps in, we can add him in.
Okay, great.
I never did it. Got it.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. We've had an exciting time throughout a lot of areas throughout our state. Redistricting is occurring. We've seen successes and challenges across this world and across this country. And the work that we're doing here at the Rio Grande Council of Governments is all about bringing better opportunity for all of our counties and cities. So I want to thank all of you for being here, as well as staff today. So we have agenda item number 1.
First, if we can,
First of all, can we get a roll call determination of quorum?
yes, we do have a quorum, thank goodness, so we can
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Is there an approval of the minutes of the previous meeting?
I still move.
All right, we have first by Representative Rivera, second by Representative Anello. Is there any questions or comments relating to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, call the question.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next, we also have the March 22 minute.
Oh, no,
Oh.
we just covered those, so we can move public comments if you'd like.
Okay, we can go to public comment now. Representative Rivera, do you have anything? Is there anyone else that signed up?
No, no one else has time for public comment, so we can move forward.
All right, we have first section is going to represent Rivera's most favorite sections of finance. We have a quarterly investment report by Harris, and again, this information and no action is required.
Yes, and so I'm going to go ahead and take the lead for this agenda item on behalf of Judy. This is our quarterly investment report that we provide to you all throughout the year. And so the first item that we're going to discuss with you briefly is the investment report with Wells Fargo for second quarter, representing January 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2022. And this first item is going to be the business checking account. So you can see that the market value has increased, it shows an increase of $355,106, and that's the difference between our expenditure and cash advances during the second quarter of FY22. And you can see what the market value was in December of 21, what it looks like as of March, what the book value is as of March 31st, 2022, and what the market value is as of March 22. And so this checking account that we utilized, we did show interest earned of $385. The next one on your next page is going to be the for our, let me just make sure I have that right.
So just curious, so there was a market decrease of $110,000?
Yes, and so the reason why is because we're paying out bills.
Okay.
So that's
Not
really,
a change in the market.
no, and we're not at the point where we can be investing any of our funds, so we're just utilizing the
So we're not
checking
exposed.
accounts. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mhm. And so the next one is going to show the book value at 110,296, and the market value as of December 31st, 2021 is 177,849. Our book value, which shows what we've actually paid out, we're a little bit ahead of what comes out with what's showing on the checking account. And so we're actually showing that the book value as of March 31st is 67,553. And then on the last item, it shows what that's being represented on the checking account side. And so this one's for $51, and this is for the CSEC program. So this is only funds that reside in our 911 program. The last item to show you is is going to be our TCEQ solid waste program. And so that one has showing a decrease of 13,044 for second quarter. And then you can see the market value and the book value. And then this item here earned interest of $8 for the second quarter. And this is, again, a requirement of our Public Investment Funds Act in terms of how we report this out to you on a quarterly basis. But I can answer any questions if anyone has any at this time. If not, then we can move on to the next agenda item if you'd like.
Okay. Next agenda item is in the administration section, which is one of Representative Nello's most favorite sections. We have first another information item, Firstnet by Ms. Gutierrez.
Yes, and so we are going to hear from Carlos Martinez, who everyone knows in a previous lifetime with El Paso County, but now he's with AT&T, serving as the El Paso area for external and legislative affairs. And there are going to be a variety of topics that he's going to discuss with you along with his team. And this, again, is informational just to make you all aware of what's going to be available to you as a community and how you can interact with AT&T for more services if you so choose. So I'm going to ask Carlos to come up here so you can speak to the audience virtually as well as in person. I'm like, where did he go? Okay.
It's a lot of fun. Good morning to you all. As Annette mentioned, my name is Carlos Martinez, and this is my colleague, and she can introduce herself.
Hi, good morning. I'm Liz Archuleta. I'm the AT&T General Manager for El Paso and Las Cruces. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to visit with you all this morning. We want to cover a few topics very quickly. The first is, of course, the Affordable Connectivity Program. So the Affordable Connectivity Program is the successor of the emergency broadband benefit that the federal government released during the pandemic. Obviously, it was of paramount importance that people have the opportunity to connect to broadband services. The Affordable Connectivity Program is its more permanent successor. That is $30 off of your internet or phone bill from the federal government that we as a company can apply, but so can our competitors. Really, anybody who provides telecommunication services can offer this service. AT&T, however, designed and created an access program that is about $30. So for folks who are very much in need, they could qualify for free internet or phone service. So I wanted to make you aware of that. The other thing is, obviously, through the the American Rescue Plan Act, your communities have some money to spend toward, being more resilient in terms of the pandemic and whatnot, and that can include expenditures in terms of broadband. And the main pitch here is that AT&T service is future-proof. Our broadband is such that if you make an investment, if we go out and do a public-private partnership where your local government entities, put out a bid that we'd like to compete for, we can help you all provide broadband to your communities in a very affordable way and in a way that's future-proof, right? Because we're willing to put some skin in the game as well as you all through that funding. An example is Vandenberg County, Indiana. That county specifically put up $9 million for broadband. AT&T went in and put up another $29 million, and that's going to connect 20,000 units. So when you all are thinking about your American Rescue Plan dollars, we are very happy to have conversations with you about, you know, what benefits there are to what the services we provide. But more than anything, the encouragement is, you know, let us as a service provider compete with other service providers for those funds. You know, put out a bid, tell the companies what you all want, and we're excited to compete for that business because I think we're a cut above. The next thing is Believe El Paso. We're going to embark on a philanthropic effort, Liz and I, to try to close the digital divide. We are going to invest some money in a mobile unit which can travel throughout El Paso County, both within the city and also outside the city limits, to take services to folks. It's sort of a pyramid tiered approach that we're looking at. Very rudimentary basics. This is the internet. This is a device. Building off on it, partnering perhaps with folks like Leila, Texas Tech. This is how you can access job services. This is how you can access telemedical services. And then ultimately, the top level would be, you know, actual upskilling and whatnot for folks. So more information to follow on that. And then the last thing I want to touch on is AT&T has a contract with the Department of Information Technology for the state of Texas. So if you all have cybersecurity needs within your local governments, there is an existing contract with DIR for a plethora of cybersecurity services that just wanted to make you aware of, and that's specifically for Texas. So for those of you from Texas, that would apply to you. For those of you from Mexico, I'm sorry, we don't have that contract with the state of New Mexico. That's it for me. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but if you don't, I will hand it over to Liz to talk about Firstnet specifically.
Any questions for Carlos? Okay. Well, I know many of you know Carlos. My face is new. So just again, I'm the general manager for AT&T in El Paso and Las Cruces. I'm born and raised in El Paso. I am based here locally, and I provide leadership across our different business units. But very simply, the reason I'm here in El Paso is to ensure that AT&T is delivering on our commitment to serve this community, to ensure that we're meeting the needs of public safety, military, our consumers, and providing a best-in-class customer experience. So that's my job. One of the ways that we do that and provide that level of service to our customers is through Firstnet. And I know many of you in the room know about Firstnet, have heard about it. Is there anybody that has not heard of Firstnet virtually or in the room? We have a couple of hands. So really high level overview, Firstnet is the only nationwide dedicated broadband network that is purpose built for first responders and support responders. It's federally mandated. So the concept of Firstnet comes from the tragic events of 9/11. So during 9/11, there were many communications challenges. Those challenges were identified in the 9/11 Commission report. 9/11 Commission made the recommendation that our nation needs a dedicated network for first responders. That recommendation was made in 2004. So fast forward many years, public safety agencies, associations advocating for the creation of this network. 2012, a law was passed to create the Firstnet Authority. That's the oversight agency. They're under the Department of Commerce, NTIA. And it also allocated spectrum. So think of this as like the HOV lane for public safety members. So this dedicated spectrum is for public safety use. Fast forward more years, RFP went out after many consultations with public safety entities, industry leaders, and the RFP that went out outlined what the requirements are for this network. Like, what are the needs of public safety? AT&T bid on that contract, and in the first ever private-public partnership of its type, AT&T was selected to be the contractor to build, operate, and maintain Firstnet. It's a 25-year contract. We're now in year 5. Some of the benefits of Firstnet, and ultimately what I'll share, what I feel is the biggest benefit of FirstNet is the partnership with communities, with public safety, and the level of transparency. So when you look at commercial carriers and you've got your AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, this is that fourth network. And there's a level of transparency regarding our network builds, our response, that no commercial carrier can provide. We're actually contractually obligated to provide that level of transparency. So with FirstNet here locally, we've invested over the past 5 years in our FirstNet build and expanding network coverage in El Paso and Doña Ana, over $200 million. For 2022, we're investing about $22 million in continued network enhancements. So I wanted to put a name to the face to the name, as I am a representative that you can turn to. I will sit down with each and every one of you to go over your coverage in your counties, in the areas that are of importance to you, to ensure that you have an understanding of what we're able to do, but also that we have an understanding of the unique challenges you may have and where you need us to allocate additional resources. So FirstNet does offer priority on the mobile network. So to make it very simple, when you're on FirstNet, you have a special SIM card in your device, and it communicates back with our network, and it lets our network know that you're first to connect to resources, you're a first responder, you're a support responder. So think of a situation where, you know, natural disaster, man-made disaster, or even an event, so that Bad Bunny concert or what have you, right, where there's a lot of people converging in one location. Every user on the commercial network is using valuable resources, but when an incident happens, the only way you can be differentiated as a first responder is through being on the FirstNet network. The FirstNet network separates your traffic from the general public's traffic and essentially says you're the first to connect. So that's one of, again, the biggest benefits of FirstNet is that network priority. I can go further into what FirstNet is, but I promise to keep it at a high level. So I really want to just hear feedback from this group or take any questions that you all may have.
See some devices.
And we're passing out some of the ruggedized devices of FirstNet.
Sometimes she throws them on. Yeah, exactly.
It's rugged.
It's really rugged.
If we had more room, I'm afraid these bounce. I
There you
would
go.
stomp on the device. It's some of the, not the iPhone, but like that Sonum that
It's like a built-in.
Wiles is holding.
Representative Robinson, I don't know if you can see how rugged these are, sir, but Commissioner Robinson, my apologies.
He needs the flip phone.
He needs to,
Here, send it back around.
they're pretty rugged.
And the big takeaway that I would leave you with on FirstNet,
Can I get
it's more than a network. It has dedicated spectrum. It has specialized features, functionality, and it
Show it to
comes with a large support team based here locally and across the nation that respond during crisis. We go through specialized training to be able to support your EOCs when an incident is happening in your area. Additionally, we have dedicated deployable assets. So think of the satellite on trucks, think of drones that provide cellular capability, think of a blimp that can service an entire county. So we use the FirstNet 1 blimp was last deployed for the hurricanes in Louisiana last fall, and it provided coverage for an entire county for several weeks as the disaster remediation and aftermath efforts were underway. We have an asset located here in El Paso, and we have a commitment to respond when requested within 14 hours. And we have these strategically placed throughout the county, throughout the country rather. We also have assets that can be owned by public safety entities. We've passed out a few flyers on what those look like, but this is essentially a a cellular network on wheels where you can have that up and ready within 10 to 15 minutes and be providing cellular coverage to a area about a mile in radius within minutes.
And that cell phone coverage would be open both towards first responders, but to the general public as well.
No, it would not. So this is dedicated for first responders.
Okay.
AT&T does have our assets for commercial users, but we prioritize response for first responders.
Board of Directors advice.
Well versed in Firstnet, so it's pretty cool. You know, and once the AT&T received the contract, many discussions with Firstnet representatives as well as AT&T representatives. At the time, there was only one tower out in Big Bend at the Big Bend National Park. Had a conversation with Monica earlier this week, and apparently there's been some build out in the region on Firstnet. The MSA areas and along the interstate I-10. So Hudson, Culberson have really good, strong signals with Firstnet. The area of concern was actually getting the build out in our rural jurisdictions, our tri-county, you know, Jeff Davis, Presidio, and Brewster County. So I'm gonna meet with her and see what that coverage map looks like to see if we can, not only on our first responders, but on our 911, our public safety answering points, how we can go ahead and leverage those services. With our 911 program, we do use T1 lines for connectivity as a redundant site from our primary host in Alpine to Culberson County for 911 routing our 911 calls. It's a redundant site. It is a fiber line, copper fiber, which is old. And so eventually, if Firstnet can come in and the build that has been there in the Tri-County, it would be replacing those T1 copper lines and maybe do hotspots with Firstnet, with AT&T. So hopefully the redundancy and the recurring cost, you know, will be lower in terms of the recurring costs, but we'll have more of a durable redundant path for the 911 costs.
Are there any other communities where this technology is being utilized?
Yes, and there are many, many examples. Since the launch of the FirstNet network, we have over 3.3 million subscribers that have joined the network, over 20,000 agencies that are on FirstNet. So here locally, name the three-letter agencies. So FBI, DEA, CBP, U.S. Army, Coast Guard, Navy, all adopters of FirstNet. More locally, EP 911, our PSAPs on FirstNet. We have healthcare systems that have adopted nationally, represented here locally. Tenet, Hospitals of Providence, HCA, all are on FirstNet.
Horizon City?
Horizon City, yes, Horizon City PD on FirstNet as well. We do have some adoption in Socorro, Anthony, so the outskirts.
EPCC Police Department as well.
And the CRD system, I think you said that there's one currently within the area?
So we actually, so this is a small deployable asset that is meant for, you know, your agency to have in a closet to pull out during emergencies, right? We have a SATCOLT, so it's a satellite on light truck, just under 26,000 tons.
So,
And it is
Small.
located here in El Paso, yes.
can I see that flip phone?
Of course. Don't throw it at anyone.
No, I won't throw it at Henry.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Questions of AT&T partnering up with Starlink?
Starlink, I don't have information on that, although I'd have to ask some more questions, so I don't have that insight.
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I apologize.
So we also have some test phones that we rely as backup when we didn't have our cloud native solution. The AT&T cell phones at each of the PSAPs are equipped already with the chip that she has.
And if there's more interest, you know, we're very happy to meet with your municipalities, your whoever's designated in your respective organization. We do trials. I think we did one recently where with the sheriff's office, so that folks are aware of what the service capabilities are. So, you know, your peace officers can drive out to where they have most issues and they can test out what they need, or what we provide.
One thing I would add to that, and especially referencing the drive tests that were done by El Paso Sheriff's Department, because Firstnet is purpose-built for public safety, there are some additional things that we can do that commercial carriers can't do. So we offer high-powered user equipment. So these aren't for the devices you put near your head. These are for in-vehicle, these are in-vehicle solutions. And what they do, so the name is AT&T Mega Range. And essentially, it's a router and antenna in your vehicle that increases coverage and capacity. And in trials, it's been used in various scenarios, maritime, so out in the ocean by the Coast Guard. It will increase signal about 80%. So when you're in an area that's on the fringe of coverage, having that in-vehicle solution can extend that coverage. So it can fill some gaps, and that's something that can be deployed instantly. So as Carlos mentioned, we welcome any additional questions. We'll hang around afterwards if there's further discussion you'd like to have with us, and we're happy to set up time with each of you individually to go over any questions you may have.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of, if you all can hear me, Judge Cano, who I don't see anymore. Where did he go? Well, so Judge Evans, Judge Guevara, I think that maybe, I know that you all have already been working on how you're going to allocate your funds for ARPA, but if there's a law enforcement component, perhaps this might be a venue that you all would want to entertain in terms of possible utilization.
And is it possible, I know we had a conversation when we talked about the new 911 service out in Brewster County, when we talked about there are still areas of gap that do not have service. Is this a possible option to connect those areas?
Well, it would only be for first responders, so we're
Yeah,
still.
I think that was the idea though, right?
Yes, and so that's why and I think that with the discussion that Maris has already been having with some staff, I think that it's just kind of a reacquaintance of where they are and how much more they can provide now compared to what it was previously in the years that we spoke when it was first initiated.
Yeah, so we have to remember first responders. And so I know that back in the region, even though that you have AT&T and Verizon was the signal was.
Right. It's very rare for somebody to have AT&T service where
Oh,
we
yeah, I
live,
remember.
because
Because it used to be the only one.
doesn't
Everyone
have
was so
service
quick to
where we live.
change.
Yeah, and although we did see some improvement with the cell coverage for AT&T. I know Verizon's also working on its own Firstnet kind of platform. It's called something different, but
I think the only place in Presidio and Jeff Davis counties that AT&T is better is Valentine.
Well, I guess I'm just talking about in regards to being able to connect that 911 service.
Right.
Right, and if it's
And
about
it's
putting
just-
in
and it's- of
infrastructure
course,
and it's just about
absolutely.
switching those SIM cards.
Well,
I mean, it's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
and I think that between the ARPA funds, the broadband funds that are going to come out, the NOFOs that are coming out from the broadband office through the through the comptroller, I think those will be opportunities that can be looked at, but we do need to think about these things now so we can be
Yeah,
prepared when the
absolutely.
funding comes out.
I agree. Good, thank you.
So, thank you.
Yeah, that's good to know.
May I ask a question real quick? Did you all hear when she said that once they set up the mobile network within a few minutes, then first responders would be able to use it? But I forgot what she said, or I didn't hear clearly what radius that would cover. How far would that go out?
There's various solutions that we offer. So think of when an incident happens, the first 10 minutes, 30 minutes, the first 5 hours, 7, 14. The CRD, the compact rapid deployable that I mentioned, provides a radius of about a mile. We have larger solutions that provide a bigger bubble of network coverage, and then we have smaller, like think of a suitcase that like carried in that has devices in it, a router and satellite backhaul that creates an instant level of communication about 300 feet the moment an incident happens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, so you are going to take over because Representative Fressman will be right back. But we can go on to agenda item 3 if you'd like. Okay. Yes, sir. Another information, but this is something that I have not done in the past, and I'll just make it, I'll be consistent with this so that way you're aware. Each year, the State Auditor's Office produces a summary of financial and performance reports that have been submitted by all of our 24 regional planning commissions throughout the state. And we are governed by the Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 391. And as we're created as political subdivisions under the Texas statute, our whole premise is to improve the health, safety, and general welfare of our residents and to plan for future development. We are required to submit several reports to the State Auditor's Office. And so what you'll see is that at the very bottom of this one page is that the Rio Grande Council of Governments did submit all of the reports timely for FY21. And then another, because you all have so much time and you like to review reports on your on a leisurely basis, but I just went ahead and submitted the report. Those for all 24 COGs. So that'll show how we are positioned compared to in terms of the revenues that they bring in, the expenditures that they utilize, the same for us. And you'll also know what are their largest funding programs. So if you ever have any questions about COGS and how we compare to others or what they do, this is a great document to be reviewing that kind of information.
Here's, I think,
Peter, hello.
Commissioner Robinson, you recognize?
Yes, thank you. Have I guessed from AT&T left? I didn't realize I was on mute, and I had a question for them in regards to their servers.
No, they're still
here.
Yes.
Okay, the question I have is for the, I heard the comment made about the radius as far as the coverage. So you said it was 1 mile, is that correct?
Yes. Depending on the deployable solution.
Hello?
Can you, she's speaking. Do you want to just take the mic?
Hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but can you hear us?
No. Try again.
Okay, try again.
So dependent on the deployable solution that we're speaking of, so I mentioned the compact rapid deployable, it does create a network bubble, a radius of about 1 mile.
Okay, now let me follow up in that regard. Is you talking about, is it line of sight?
So, the topography does play a role in, what the network strength will be. So if you're deploying it in an area that is free and clear, you're going to have a larger radius of coverage. If there's buildings and such in between, it may be lesser. Does that make sense?
Building or if like some of your areas you have hilly and mountainous areas, so some of those areas may not be covered because you can't get the line of sight.
So this is a solution. So think of this as a solution you would deploy at your incident command, right? So it's not meant to provide a wide area coverage. This is for agency use, something that you can deploy immediately based on your need. AT&T brings in additional resources. So I mentioned the satellite on light truck. So these are the larger solutions that provide a bigger radius. These satellite on light trucks have a mast that the antenna goes up about 30 feet, and that provides a wider area of coverage.
So you're talking about just quick reaction as opposed to the daily operation?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, so back to agenda item number 3. Just wanted to provide you this information. Are there any questions for me on this item? 3, yes, sir. 3.
Representative Rivera, any questions, sir? Representative Vanilla, you're recognized.
Yeah, I see in some of the other areas they provide transportation services. What are those exactly, Annette? Are you familiar?
So they will, they serve as the public transit authority. So they're running the buses. And so they're doing them either in one specific community or they're running them throughout their entire region. One thing that has come up in terms of transportation, El Paso County is looking at, they already have formed a local government corporation, and there's a possibility where we could serve as their fiscal agent. And so we wouldn't be directly involved in transportation, but we would be handling the funds, doing the reporting, having that as part of our audit. But I think that would give us a great opportunity to learn more about transit, to see how it is that we might be able to start engaging in some programs.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think it's great that the county's doing that too. And I think there definitely needs to be, which I have not seen yet, coordination with the city. So those services are running seamlessly. We should have a conversation about that. Yeah.
Yes, we can do that. Or I can bring you along with me at the next local government corporation meeting. Yes, ma'am.
I enjoy them.
I'd like to go as well.
Just to know, since they've already started to get everything in order.
Yeah.
So it'll take them a while to get everything.
Yeah, no, I know. And I know there's still a conversation about what funding is going to be available to the county that has been traditionally available to the city, which is why I'm concerned about maybe the lack of coordination that's going on. So yeah, I think that those are conversations that could happen now, earlier better. So.
And I can take that back.
Yeah.
Okay, if there aren't any questions for me on agenda item 3, we can move on to 4 if you would like.
Item number 4, this is the Paso Norte Community Foundation by Ms. Gutierrez. Again, another information action.
Yes, and this is probably a bit of an odd duck in terms of why I'm bringing it forward to you, but in the spirit of transparency, I did have a conversation with Representative Rivera as well as Mayor Webb when we're having one of our last meetings, finance meetings, and I have been asked to serve on the review committee for the funding that's going to be made available by El Paso County for nonprofits and local governments. The Health Foundation, the Community Foundation is serving as the administrator of those grants, but they would like a review team. And so they have contracted out with several individuals, including myself. That's for $5,000. But what I would like to do is I want to use the majority of those funds to go towards our Aging in Texas conference. So we're going to have our conference in August. And although the state association is the one who puts it on, it's their funding sources that are being utilized. I think that if we had this funding, it could help us just take us a little bit over in terms of the hospitality and just showing our participants what a great community our region is. And so that's how I would like to utilize the funding. There are some times where I would be required to attend these meetings during work time. So I would just have a ledger to show how many hours I've worked on this initiative. And so the idea is that I would just hold back just enough money to cover taxes, but the rest of it can go towards the conference. Any questions?
So I'm confused. You're asking to be one of the sort of judges for or proposal or review of proposals for this.
Mhm.
I guess so. But you're also wanting to argue that these funds that the county have would only be
Well, no, they have asked for us to serve as reviewers. I'm one of 2 others, but they want to pay us for those services.
Okay.
So,
Get that.
it's just easy. It's more expeditious for them to go independent contractor rather than contract with the COG.
Yeah.
But since I see this work as being inclusive of what I do as the executive director, I think it's just more appropriate to just whenever I have that
So you're
check
saying
in
the
hand
$5,000 that they would compensate you to put that towards the.
towards the Aging in Texas.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay. Yeah. No, I understood. For some reason, I thought you were arguing that all the funds that the county had were going to go towards this.
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
I was
sir.
like, that's a little weird.
No, sir. No,
Got
sir.
it. Okay,
So
cool.
this is information item, but just want to make everyone aware. I don't know
The
if this,
reason we did it was so that you all would know, and she's being transparent about this, and it's not brought up to the board.
all right.
All right, that
Thank
sounds
you.
nice and wonderful. And thank you again for your hard work, and Representative Rivera, to the extent you were involved, thank you as well. We have item number 5, which is our first action item
Yes.
outside of the approval of minutes. This is a quite exciting time within this meeting. We have a request.
No
for
sarcasm, sir.
No, none. No, absolutely. Request for qualifications for auditing services for FY22, FY23, in FY24 for the Rio Grande Council of Governments by, again, Ms. Gutierrez.
Yes, and I'm sorry that I didn't put that in the subject, but it's under the information with the option of also allowing us to add on 2 additional years thereafter. So we are, our time is up with GRP, and so we now need to go out for auditing services. And so if you all would allow us, we'll go ahead and post this request for qualifications. And I believe that we would be looking at June to present you all with the finalists in terms of your approval. And so with that in mind, when we presented this to the Finance Committee meeting, Judge Guevara had a really good idea because it wasn't on there in terms of the document. When we have our review team, it's the last time we did this, it was staff, but she would like to include a board person as well to review the applications. So that would be the item that she would be, if you would like to make that motion, Judge, after, if anybody has any questions, she would want that inclusion in the request for qualification.
Judge, you're on mute.
I could go ahead and make that motion now.
That'd be great.
I'll go ahead and I make a motion that the review board include a board member, or the review committee, or include a board member in
then-
the RFQ process.
And you will allow us to also post the RFQ?
Yes. That's my motion also.
Second.
There's a second. Any further questions or comments? With that, we'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. There's this discussion.
Yes, thank you. So just as a reminder, we do have we have 2 amendments that we present to you all throughout the year. This is our first one. And I think this one, well, they're both very important, but this one is going to reflect the actual costs that we have, the actual revenues that we've received, as well as any carryovers that we have that we're reflecting from FY21. And so if we would look at, if you go to the next slide, Rebecca, right here is just showing where we are. So we've increased our revenues by 1,836,867, and we've also increased our expenditures by 1,854,501. So our total budget for the agency revenues is at 10,718,811, and the expenditures are at 10,719,259. The amount increase is predominantly coming from the Area Agency on Aging. They have funds that they carried over from the CDC program. And so that's a portion, but the other portions of funds that they received is through the American Rescue Plan. And so those are new funds that came to us after our budget was approved. And so in discussions with our Finance Committee, with Representative Vera, as well as Judge Guevara, we talked extensively in terms of how we're going to utilize funding. If there's any opportunities that you all can think of in terms of having our older adults use the funding, we're running into some issues where workforce is a concern in terms of the providers, and then also looking at some other opportunities for our contractors, so we could do home modifications, but that's not as available as well. So we're in that conundrum where everyone else is. We got the money now, but we don't have the workforce. So we're trying to figure out some collaborative ways to make that happen. But the other portion, to a smaller degree in terms of the increase, is through our water support program, where we increased those revenues by 380,000, and that's for the flood planning program to allow us to do more activities. So that's the budget amendment in a nutshell. Are there any questions for me?
What sort of discussion or for
Yes. No, I don't have it here. I don't have it on it's not on this desktop, but we still have the Finance Committee budget. Okay, we'll pull that up, but Yvette, you probably have this memorized. in terms of how much you have for home health? Well, all under the service of home health. Okay, we're gonna bring that up. We'll bring that up right now. Well, that's what the discussion is. We purchase services on behalf of clients, but we just cannot find. So we have providers that we have utilized throughout the years that go through the vetting process, but now they don't have the staff to provide the services for us with the amount of hours that we're requesting. So we did talk with Ms. Melendez about this as well, because this is a workforce issue. And so we're going to have some follow-up meetings to discuss. This won't be solved in this fiscal year, but being as strategic as Leila is, we're talking about how we need to bring that into our CTE programs with the high schools and looking at how we're going to bring up more of this workforce, because this is a situation that's happening statewide and perhaps nation as well. Because the other agencies on aging are also experiencing this situation.
Dollars that were approved for the home improvements for this fiscal year?
Well, those are the two buckets that I guess are my favorites, because I talk about those more, but there's different pots of monies as well that that are being made available for services. And so I'm going to have Yvette come up real quick so she can make that mention. Do you want to come in this one?
So the additional funding, we're obviously grateful for additional monies anytime we can help support. So there is no lack. Obviously, there is never enough monies to go around to serve. The two areas that we've identified that have been most difficult for us have been under services that the in-home provider services. So that's our personal assistants and homemaker. The problem with that is that these home health agencies that we contract with to provide that service to our clients, they cannot find and retain, or once they find them, retaining them is the difficult, keeping them as employees. That's something that we just don't have any control over, but that's something that staff is working vigorously to try to get those for them. Once we get that, yeah. So, like I said, funding, additional funding, monies, clients, that is not a problem. That we have plenty of people that have need, and we can feel that it's that part there that the home health agencies just can't keep staff. You know, part of that can be argued that it's their hourly rate, you know, because we've heard different home health agencies, providers find out that the provider X is paying 50 cents more, so they jump ship and go over there. And so it's just kind of a revolving difficulty that, you know, as it is, this profession is a very highly underpaid, underappreciated, but when you need the services, obviously that's important, right? So that's one portion. The part that Annette talked about with our home modifications, we've got 2 contractors here in El Paso County. The region, we don't have any contractors. And the problem there is that those funds are on a reimbursement basis. So when you get paid, basically you've invoiced us. Most contractors kind of want an upfront payment, maybe even half. I can appreciate that in the sense of investing in purchasing, you know, lumber, equipment, whatever is necessary to provide that. And our home modification programs, things like bathroom modifications, ramps, door widening, anything that's going to help someone stay independent and in their home is why we do that or provide that service. And so for us, that particular one is kind of a high dollar in and out situation. We can get in and out with those. But again, the contractors, finding several to be able to do that. Like I said, right now it's only in El Paso County that we've been able to provide that type of assistance, because we've got 2 here that have been willing to work with us and have been with us for several years on that reimbursement basis. So
all the contractors are so busy right
yes, yeah. That, the cost of lumber has gone up, anything else that goes into.
I guess I'm just wondering, of the projects that were approved this year, how many of them are waiting on?
Well, and what you're referencing are what we've done pulled from this for the senior fund.
Yeah.
So that's completely
different.
separate.
Okay.
Yeah. Where this came up in our finance committee discussion was because of the additional ARP or American Rescue Plan monies. This is a 3-year allocation for all area agencies on aging. So we're in year 1 and we've received about $1.5 million. In addition to the regular Title III dollars that come to area agencies on aging to provide the exact same services. So we're looking at, you know, like that's a huge jump, or the gap that Annette is indicating, to show how much more money we have as an organization, but it's really my fault. So in that sense, to show the difference in why we're showing such a significant difference from when we first reported on budget, proposed budget for 22 versus the amendment that she's presenting to now. So it's just that we're you know, it's not for lack of trying. It really is honestly not for lack of need. You know, there's plenty of clients to go around. In fact, I've seen a huge increase. Daily, we average between 30 and 40 requests for assistance daily. So you can imagine weekly what that looks like for us. You know, thankfully, we're not on a waiting list, but it's just more of a wait time for a client. So we're working hard as we can to make sure we get those funding spent. The only caveat with these ARP monies is that since it's a 3-year allocation, I feel okay with carrying that over. I know it poses difficult sometimes if we misrepresent income, if you will, if we're planning to carry that over to the following year. But because of that, you know, that's a solution. We're allowed to carry those funds over, but it's just different at different levels, that it might impact the COG at a different level each fiscal year, depending on what we're reporting as our total budget for what AAA is proposing to have. So I think that's where we were coming from, to say if anyone has suggestions, or if you want to just continue to get the word out. Like I said, it's not for lack of trying our clients. It's just these little things that unfortunately I don't have control over to make us move a little faster.
Yeah, I would also suggest maybe reaching out to the trade unions and see if they'd be willing to put together something to contract out this work on their off times as well.
Or the Border Flex workforce.
Yes, and we're
Yeah,
supposed to be
they're right there.
yes, meeting with Ms. Melendez and team soon to see what we can talk. But as we discussed, obviously it's not going to be fixed this year, but potentially, because I don't see this going away. I mean, this is something that we definitely, and maybe this is what's brought it to a head, because this has been happening for a while now. It's not something that's new, especially with in-home provider services. Again, very undervalued, underpaid profession.
Is there also the possibility within the contracts that you do for the at-home healthcare to require a minimum wage? Right, if they're not paying their employees well, so they're not retaining their staff, you can say we'll only contract with those who will pay. I mean, I think $15 an hour is just what I'm going to say. I know that's very low for at-home services, but and you know, and that can help you retain those people through them. I don't know if that's an option with that funding.
So we're not in the current setup in the way our vendor agreements. They're very just standard language documents. Although another, we just met yesterday, our area agency on aging directors had this discussion and bringing that forth. Apparently at the HHSC level, you know, those that Medicaid dollars that HHSC Community Care provides, their contracts actually read that
Yeah.
they're only able to, a vendor or organization, a home health agency can only make $3 to $3.50 on profit on what their reimbursement, their hourly rate is. So if we're reimbursing a home health agency at $19 an hour, then they have to pay their staff member $16.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's exactly what you're getting at. We don't have that ability to do that in our agreement, but bringing that forward. So we've made our state office aware of some of the difficulties, including going back to the home modifications. There is a cap that's in statute that we can only pay $5,000 per client dwelling per job, basically.
Yeah.
Well, that was established 25 years ago, and it's in the Texas Administrative Code that gives us that cap. So that's a problem. No. And we've seen that. And again, my colleagues across the state have expressed that. The workaround that the state office says is that you can always ask for individual approval, and we'll take it case by case.
Which is no guarantee for reimbursement.
It's like 5,000 for this project, 5,000 for that project, and you know, I mean, is that
Different
possible?
projects per
It's
household.
per client.
Right.
Yeah, it's per client.
Per
Per
client.
client.
Okay.
Per household, client household dwelling. So if it's a bathroom modification and that's coming in as a quote at 6,000, we've already surpassed the cap.
But if we were to find ways where we can collaborate with other agencies that are doing similar services.
They can do that, yeah.
Our money, but that takes more coordination.
Oh.
That wouldn't be allowed.
Wow.
Because we're capped at the service at 5,000. So they're looking at, that's what I'm saying, it's in statute, the Texas Administrative Code for residential repair caps the service at 5,000. So like in the case of the senior fund, in fact, we had one of the clients that had a ramp, the cost came in at 6,127. So I've already submitted that to the help desk to get special approval so that we cover the 5,000, or I'm sorry, the difference basically we have an agreement with the senior fund, and that's our local, through the coordination with the Times, United Way, local dollars that are raised for El Paso County. They capped us at 3,000, and then area agency would cover the rest to make up that difference. But if you look at that client as a whole, it's over the $5,000 cap. So it's things like that I know
Frustrating.
it's very frustrating.
And you can't really help them.
Right. So they're in a holding pattern. Or someone else brought up an example, say you've gone in for a bathroom modification, you rip out the tub and you realize the flooring is rotted and you've got to replace that. So that increases the quote there. And to have to call, wait for a response from the state office while you've left someone with a hole. Exactly. So it's little things that we just have to go back and forth with our state office, things that I don't want to bore y'all with details, but there's been some problems with our state office and communication in a timely manner as well. So again, in the vein of just trying to inform you, to be as transparent as possible, to show you why that difference in increase, we appreciate the funding, but there's some challenges that come with it.
But we're open to any lines of communication from our member governments in terms of just thinking of some possibilities that maybe we haven't utilized before in the past that we can maybe do now.
The home care, does it make any sense to put out like another RFQ or something for different groups or whatever?
It's open throughout the year, so they can come
Open
in and
throughout the year.
Yeah, the problem is we've got 40 vendors for home health agencies. So there's choice, but it's those vendors themselves that can't seem to find the staff, the providers themselves, to either come on or they hire them on and then realize somebody else is paying 50 cents more, so they jump ship.
I know firsthand that my mother actually works at a home health care provider here, the regional one. So I hear firsthand they have a hard time with finding
staff.
physicians.
Exactly.
So also just in a nutshell, just to summarize, what are the most significant changes with this amendment?
It's that, I mean, really, when Annette was highlighting the difference, the extreme difference between what was proposed for budget, the proposed budget for 22 versus Amendment 1, which is what we're looking at here, is this money that's reflected on this slide kind of represents the total where we've placed a majority of the funding that we have from the American Rescue Plan. I think we're trying to find that slide.
I'm sorry. No, we were.
Okay.
We just moved on from that. I'm sorry.
You want me to go back? Yes. And again, anytime, because our standard operations, obviously staff, I wish I could give everyone a $10,000 raise, but that's not going to happen. So anytime we have additional funding is going to go straight towards the purchase of services for clients. And so that's where you're seeing here on this slide here, that's reflective of anything we have towards our meals program, transportation, the in-home provider services of homemaker and personal assistants, the health maintenance category, which covers things like dental, vision, hearing aids, medication, supplies, equipment, respite care for our family caregivers. That's again something else through the home health agencies. And then part of the CDC money that was received last fiscal year was carried over this year to provide transportation, but it's very specific on the types of things that we can provide. In this case, we're showing budget, that last transportation category is to transport persons to receive their vaccine or booster. And again, with that, that's a whole other story. Thankfully our region we've got a very high percentage of vaccine persons who've been vaccinated, So really the need is not quite there, but we're continuing to provide information. It's available every call that comes in. If you need assistance, we're going to try to provide help as we can, but those monies, that CDC dollars, are very specific on what can be done. So that's kind of also another area where, again, the need isn't as great as it was at the beginning of last year. We didn't receive them until April fiscal year 21 and have been carried over into this fiscal year.
So that doesn't include testing?
Not testing, it's just information on what's available to you. If you need help registering, we can help register you. And if you need transportation to get you to and from that appointment or that vaccine booster or actual vaccination, we can help with that.
So if anyone would be interested in providing a motion, that would be great.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any other additional comments or questions at this time? Okay, I just hear ambient noise. So at this time, I think that ambient noise is not a comment, but rather a call to the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Judge Evans?
Thank you, sir. All opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Contreras. All right, so now next we have the letter of recognitions from Rsp Staff, again by Ms. Gutierrez, and this is an information action,
Yes,
information item.
if I may though, Representative, I would like to, under my executive director's report, bring up Ms. Melendez from Workforce. They do have to get to another meeting, so she's going to provide us some really important information on childcare as well as some other items. And so I'm going to yield my time to Ms. Melendez, so she's going to present right now. And then we can ask her questions about the others.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Melendez, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me online?
Come on, guys.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you for the thumbs up, Judge Gano. Good to see you. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Leila Melendez. I'm the CEO of Workforce Solutions Borderplex, for those of you that I haven't met before. And I brought with me a squad of some folks from our office, Marisela Correa, Miriam Guerrero, and Yvette Alvarado. And we work across all of the different, everything ultimately leads to employment. So Marisela was looking at me earlier about the comments in coordinating with some of the trades. She works very closely with some of our construction trades, and we'd be happy to get in on the conversation. And then also Miriam and Yvette specifically work in our family services department, which focuses on childcare. So all of the issues that you all have been talking about earlier about employment, we are neck deep in and trying to come up with solutions. But today I wanted to brief you all on childcare. Childcare is facing the industry is facing the same employment crisis. And I wanted to brief you all on a program that was rolled out last year and just wrapped up. So I'm just giving you some information, but open it to general questions or conversation. So the service industry, can you go back? The service industry recovery program was a pool of funds it's federal funding that came down to the state. And then the Texas Workforce Commission distributed this amount across all of the regions across the state. And it was child care assistance for service industry workers. And those were workers in food service, retail, and arts and entertainment. And this fund was largely advocated by the Texas Restaurant Association to try to get those workers back into jobs and supporting them with the childcare so they can do that. The service was 12 months of free childcare if those children were enrolled or placed with childcare providers, those that are under our subsidy program. And the enrollment went from, it was a short window of enrollment from October of 2021 to March of 2022. So we just closed the window on this. Our target to enroll children was 2,700 children. We enrolled only 877. We were allocated a budget of $17 million to pay for this, and we anticipate to only meet about $2 million worth of this. Go ahead. So this, in a nutshell, is just kind of some of what we were faced with. Of all of the workers in our region, in our entire Borderplex region, El Paso all the way out to the 6 counties, there are over 78,000, or 25% of all of our workers are in these occupations, in retail, arts and entertainment, and accommodation and food service. So we obviously have a huge demand for those individuals that likely need childcare. Go ahead. We did extensive outreach on multiple different platforms. We had over 440,000 impressions across all of those areas. We did outreach in English and Spanish. Some of those obviously were on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We did press conferences, TV, radio, and billboard ads. So we had a tremendous amount of reactions and impressions, and we actually were able to trace where that cliff was, if you will, from someone reacting to it and engaging to whether or not they were actually eligible for these funds. Go ahead. So we wanted to see whether or not this related to COVID cases. So you could see the lines at the very bottom were enrollments, our typical standard enrollment of children into our childcare program. The blue line is this program in particular, the service industry recovery. And then that sharp red line is COVID cases. So we just wanted to see if that had an impact, and it didn't. People had been trickling back into employment for several months already, and that didn't necessarily, the COVID cases were not necessarily the issue as to why folks were not enrolling people into this program. Go ahead. But this slide, I hope you all can see it from here. The amount of child care services in our county and in our area, in our counties and our service area. On the left-hand side, these are all of our child care providers. We have a little less than 300 child care providers. Most of those are centers, some of those are homes. And the number of children, the capacity, the total children capacity that they can serve, 18,000. Of those 293 providers, only 78 are providing what is considered quality child care. And there is an actual definition and there's a program. This is a learning environment child care. It's beyond basic care. It's actually curriculum, nutrition, etc. So only 78% or 78 of our 293 providers in the region are considered quality, which is something else we're working on. But in the rural area, we looked at those providers that we have out there at all, and whether or not any of those served evening and weekends. And in the counties outside of El Paso County, none of those providers offer evening or weekend services. Go ahead. So in a nutshell, for those providers that do offer evening and weekend slots, it's a little less than 4,000 to serve 78,000 workers. Huge gap in really what the demand is and what the supply is for those workers, which is ultimately the reason why we did not have more enrollments into this. Go ahead. So here are some just dynamics. The number of children that are enrolled has been constant with slight variations from month to month. We are still below our target, which is 7,000 in total for all of our childcare program, but there are multiple factors contributing to low enrollment. Childcare providers are not working at full capacity due to COVID. A lot of those closed during the time. Some of them did stay open, but lost workers, and they have just maybe not returned to that full capacity. The non-competitive childcare worker wages compared to inflation wages. If a person gets paid $11 an hour, that's actually pretty good in this industry, which is not acceptable compared to the other wages that they're getting at fast food restaurants, and any other industry right now. And actually, this is well below what we calculate our workforce, our living wage. Our current living wage is $14.39. So childcare workers earning $11 are not themselves earning a living wage, which is one of the main contributors to this industry crisis. And then parents are not returning their children to childcare centers. Many early retirement workers, those that we have identified 55 and older that retired early during COVID, are assuming the role of home care childcare providers. They're taking care of their grandkids, nieces, nephews, etc. So where we found from this particular program just some areas of opportunity, and we have shared this back with our agency and with partners. The grant has ended and those funds were recaptured by the Texas Workforce Commission. We don't know if they're going to put this back out or what they're going to do with this, but the grant was specific to shift workers in food, beverage, and the entertainment industry. But we felt that those industries were some of that criteria was too specific. Some folks in the same occupations across many industries, for example, a restaurant worker in a hotel could not qualify. So some of those things were keeping folks out. Daycares traditionally operate from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., largely excluding this population. Shift workers work evenings, weekends, etc., and the childcare industry is just not set up to serve this population. Few of those operate to maybe 9 p.m. And then there are some that are open on Saturdays, but during the daytime. So evening, although we've thought at child care centers, I don't know that evening care is a viable solution. I think it is counterproductive to quality care. I think it's unrealistic to expect a worker to get off of work at midnight, pick up their child at a daycare center, wake them up, take them home, put them back to bed, wake them up again at 6 a.m. to put them in school. I just don't know that that's the right thing. So we are looking at the opportunities that we see here is shifting some of these resources to relative and family care. We know that off the record, parents, grandparents are taking care of children. So let's put some resources there and allow them and give them those resources to pay those wages, to pay for that quality support. So something we're working on.
I'm just curious, because when you talk about relative and family care and sort of compensating that, like how would that
There's already a program through Health and Human Services for relative care. So you can, if for example, if I wanted to register my mother to take care of my young children, they could. Unfortunately, that program through HHSC pays that worker or that person $8 a day. So it doesn't fit. It's not appealing enough. So we would kind of copy that and figure out a way to pay those wages and provide, CPR classes, some learning, some basic training for care. So we would develop a course like that, very similar to how we do other training programs.
Have you done a survey of the individuals that were in the program and if they even have access to family care? Because I do understand that it seems unrealistic for someone to put their child in a daycare in the evening, but for some people,
right,
they don't have the option
that's
for
correct.
anything else.
That's correct. Right. Yes, absolutely. So there's multiple things that we have to do is expand the capacity of centers to operate in those hours, get more providers open, if you will, and help them the same way as home health care, help them hire staff back, pay them competitive wages. Higher wages then increases the cost of care, which makes it even more unaffordable for parents, which is like this endless cycle. So it's something that we're just actively working on as well. And then going back to this is depending on whether they do anything else with this fund or with these funds that across the state, frankly, these funds were not spent the way that they thought they would. So if they put this back out, we think that they need to expand that definition to include essential workers like nurses and first responders. So that's something that we've advocated for. Go ahead. We wanted to just share especially for our rural counties, some of the unemployment information we've had between January and March of this year, the claimants that we've had and how many folks we have served, a little bit over 150 claims. We've served about 122 of those individuals, and we've provided those folks with some job referrals, assistance, and registration to help them, get back into the workforce. This one's a little hard to see, but we have it broken down by zip code of the job openings in these different zip codes and the amount of activity and opportunities that are out there. And so we're looking at all of those job openings and reaching out to those folks that file for unemployment or are looking for jobs and trying to match them with those vacancies. Go ahead. Some of the companies or the organizations that we've provided some of those services to is the City of Presidio, the Presidio Fire Department, Marfa Meats, a foundation in Marfa as well, some businesses in Fort Hancock and Fort Davis, and including Big Bend Telephone and the West Texas Bank. So we're actively in the area trying to help those organizations find staff. And all of these are different potential talent pools, including like adults, but also some are youth and some are job openings. And we also have a program that we call Summer Earn and Learn, which is for youth with disabilities. So a lot of our employers in El Paso, in the metro area, and in the rural foundation and in the rural area have had really great outcomes in hiring youth and adults with disabilities. that was it that I wanted to share with you all about specifically the service industry recovery, because you might hear at a state level that there was just a tremendous amount of money thrown for this project, if you will, that kind of fell flat. It didn't do what it needed to because there's different, but it's identified other systemic issues in our childcare industry, which is what Miriam and Yvette are trying to solve every day. Beyond that, we have there's still a tremendous amount of money coming down through us for childcare. There is a child care relief fund right now. It is grants, not loans. These are grants that are available to child care providers, homes and centers, and they need to apply directly with the state, and they can use these funds. There's no cap. They can ask for these funds and use it on anything except construction. They can pay wages, they can pay their taxes, they can buy equipment, tools, cribs, whatever they need for their software, computer equipment, what have you, for their business. So we're promoting that, getting providers to try to increase and stabilize their capacity and bring more childcare providers online so that more people can go back to work and have their kids taken care of. So if you all know of any childcare providers in your region or in your districts that have questions, please refer them to us. And Miriam and Yvette are working with this industry closely every day and trying to solve that. So like I said, there's a tremendous amount of money and resources coming down to them, and there's a lot of work that we're doing for this industry. We consider this the first industry that everybody else can build from. So any questions or comments?
I have some questions. Leila, so just to be clear, the dollars for childcare, what region did they service?
For our region, it's all of our 6 counties. So.
And you only advertised via social media?
No, we did TV, radio, press conferences, stories, newspaper, everywhere in English and in
But you did not actually go within, restaurants throughout the city?
We actually did. We did flyers and we put them at restaurants. We put them on car windows. We blanketed as many folks.
And I know you said that you I guess filtrated what you thought was quality care and what was not, but you're still kind of working on what that looks like.
So there is a definition of quality care. It's actually like a label called Texas Rising Star, and there are levels. You can go up to a TRS 4, and we have, and I have a better breakdown of that. It is choice. The child care provider can choose to enroll into TRS, and there's curriculum. There's actual mentoring services available to them to help them get there and then help them step up. And then we audit or assess that every year to ensure that they stay at those levels, increase or decrease. And we provide funding and resources if they need books, carpeting, building blocks, nutrition, whatever. There's actual dollars that we can spend on them. So there is a definition for what
I'd love to see that. But also just kind of wondering what your outreach is going to be. Because I'll tell you, when I saw this in the backup, I reached out to many people I know who work in the service industry with children, and they knew nothing about this program. And that's considering the amount of dollars that are going back to the state is a real failure on this program for many reasons that you mentioned. But it is disappointing to see.
Absolutely.
And so, looking at now that there are these grants available to make childcare services better, to what you say, quality care, I think there really needs to be some boots on the ground and going into, we all see them. You drive in my district down Montana or up Pershing, you see many of these places. Someone needs to be going in there and explaining to them what this can or cannot do, because there was a big gap in service, obviously, with these dollars, and $17 million going back to the state. Is it 17 or 15?
17.
Yeah, it's disappointing. And I know that I'm not saying there were not challenges, and there was no way you were going to expend all of those dollars with the challenges that they set forth. But I definitely, any way that we can help, any information that you can give on how you're going to make sure that these grants are more accessible to people. I would like to see that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's
anything we can do on policy level too. I mean,
those are absolutely the things that we want to, that we're doing with the community, because this does take a bigger effort, is getting our providers to increase their capacity, not just the numbers of care, but that it's quality care, and that it serves. If 25% of our workforce is shift workers and they need care beyond 6 o'clock. We need to help, we need to create the services for those workers.
What is the phone number in the region that people could call?
It's sure, let me give that to you. It's 915. Yeah.
Writing it down.
887.
887?
Yes, ma'am. 2600. And that's our central entry point, and then we can get them into the right place.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Just a comment. What happened at the Montessori in Ciudad Juarez is probably affecting child enrollment here.
Okay.
Because I've heard from a lot of parents that they're not putting their kids at the child care centers based on what happened over there.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, the issues vary, you know, their wages, their hours, it's, you know, it's a multitude of things. So yeah, we're trying to, this industry is in crisis, major crisis right now. And it's going to take a long-term effort and including policy. So something that came down through the state legislature last year is that now any provider that receives a subsidy has to become quality. So now they actually are not going to have a choice, but because they had historically chosen not to, some of those are choosing not to, never mind, I'm going to close my doors altogether, which is completely the opposite effect of what we want. So we're trying to battle that and say, okay, wait, you know, time out, let's not.
So that was called Rising Star?
Texas Rising Star, correct.
Texas Rising
Yes.
Star.
Right. Because it is a process. They need to do training. They need to have early education training, nutrition, certain curriculum, you know, it's a learning environment and that takes an investment. Now we support that investment, but it's still an effort. And some providers have chosen to, you know, I just prefer not to, you know, so, but we, in that legislation requiring them to be quality is it might have a counter effect and them saying, you know what, I just prefer to shut my doors and do something else.
Is it possible for these grants for quality care to partner with like school districts? I know like EPISD has not re-upped their after school program since COVID, right? They're saying they the budget.
That was something, Alex, that I was wanting to kind of touch on. We are going to be expanding our partnerships with the Y, first of all, for after school care after school, but there is an opportunity, I think, here for a longer conversation. First of all, we do have programs in our schools where we do prepare child care workers at the high school level to enter into these professions after they graduate and they would actually be ready to go. That's a longer conversation. But I think the bigger conversation or the longer term, you know, vision would be that there is an opportunity for our schools to help build partnerships, you know, even within existing buildings that we have that are not in use, or just to expand the services that we can offer to our community, you know, beyond pre-K 3. And so that's something that we've touched on, but certainly if there's ever an opportunity for us to use funding sources to help us, you know, as we navigate those maybe larger strategic goals, I think it certainly merits a specific conversation and a larger conversation.
Absolutely agree.
Anything else?
Thank you, Leah.
All right, thank you.
I think what we can do is perhaps just have a workshop and we'll invite officials and staff and we can work with Workforce Solutions and have a longer discussion on it.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, but I would love any policy suggestions from the data that you have. That would be great.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Thank
Have a
you.
great- Thank you for letting me crush your.
Problem. Thank you again. And thank you again for a live and spirited conversation as well. Next we have number 7.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to County Attorney Teresa Todd, but just briefly, there's a lot of work that goes into these meetings, into our meetings on a monthly basis, but with these criminal justice and first responders, there's that much more work just with all of the applications coming in, reviewing them, vetting them, processing them, and then actually having an idea of what each of those programs or those applications are like, because you're going to be asked as the staff member, what is your take on that? And so I think Teresa wanted to take this opportunity to recognize both Marisa as well as her technician, Amber Ray. So Teresa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. It is such an honor to be able to do this. Thank you all so much. The Criminal Justice Advisory Committee unanimously asked me to write these letters for Marisa and for Amber. And just a little history, Marisa and Annette and I all had the same mentor, which was Jake Brisbane. So we all kind of sort of came up in this together, and we're all kind of taught the right way to do things. And so I just feel so honored and privileged to be able to honor Marisa, because our committee is an outstanding committee. Representative Anello is on it. The county judges are on it. And we do such amazing work. The committee is Jake always said he thought it was the best committee at the COG. And well, you know what? I'm going to stop talking and just read these letters. I'm just going to be quiet. Well, I'm not, but anyway. Dear Director Gutierrez, I am honored to write this letter of recognition on behalf of the Criminal Justice Advisory Committee for the unparalleled professionalism, expertise, and assistance provided by Regional Services Director Marisa Quintanilla. I have served on the CJAC since the 1990s, so I've worked with Ms. Quintanilla for the entirety of her tenure with the committee. Mrs. Quintanilla assists the CJAC members every step of the way in our process, from grant evaluation to compilation of scores and submission of data to the governor's office. She also provides invaluable clarification to us regarding issues that arise without warning, and always conveys important information in a clear, fair, and unbiased manner. With dollars consistently shrinking in many fund sources over the years, it is imperative for the CJAC to have the most up-to-date information upon which to rely in ranking and scoring grant applications, as well as a standard basis of comparison for often differing programs within a funding source. Mrs. Quintanilla's thorough staff evaluation on each grant, which this was our packet for this year, within a funding source. Mrs. Quintanilla's thorough staff evaluation on each grant provides this type of apples to apples comparison, thereby saving committee members many hours of preparation time on the 30+ grants that we must evaluate in a 2-day period. Additionally, Mrs. Quintanilla's years of experience with the Council of Governments and her depth of knowledge with the wide variety of funding sources, are crucial to the work of the committee. Her professional working relationship with staff at the Office of Public Safety and the Criminal Justice Division means that we always have staff resources available in the governor's office to answer any questions or clarify any issues the committee may have during our deliberations. Put simply, the work that the CJAC accomplishes would not be possible without the expertise and dedication of Marisa. The committee unanimously wants to recognize her efforts and request that this letter be read aloud at the next Board of Directors meeting, placed in her personnel file, and considered in her next employee evaluation. Thank you, Marisa, for everything that you do for us.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I just have to say that I am very, very proud of the work that the Criminal Justice Advisory Committee does every year. They serve, if you don't know this, our CJAC serves as a model committee for the rest of the state. Items that we propose in terms of convening a third day, just to go ahead and evaluate the applications, the purge stations, the ranking, and really objectively look at the funding sources, look at the availability of funds, historical funding. That is something that was not and had not been done by other committees throughout the state. When those committees were asked to do that, the state asked those my fellow planners, directors, to talk to us about how our committee facilitates that process. And so I even believe that Ms. Todd was in a conversation with the governor's office when they asked, do you need to reconvene? And Ms. Todd said, no, we've already done the work. And so I'm very, very, very proud of the work that you all do and the time that you put into this, because 2 full days from 9 o'clock to almost 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then have to come back the following week to go back and do it one more time. So I certainly appreciate your dedication to this process.
And just know that Marisa and Amber spend a lot more time than we do.
Oh, yeah.
Because they do staff evaluations, and I'll do Amber's letter, but Amber spent a lot of time, and Marisa, and I know other people here double checked numbers because they get these numbers back to us in time for us to meet another day, go through everything, and try to stretch our dollars even further. So with that,
I'll also say really quick though, that it's
Sure.
also in addition to essentially organizing a small conference of people for 3 days, right? And making sure feeding us and like
putting us up in nice hotels.
Never complaining once where you don't have enough room at our table and we're like squirming and talking too much, and having all the answers and making sure we have everything we need. I mean, that in and of itself was so seamless and it made everyone comfortable, and is like that every year. And then also just you know, Marisa is always really impressive to me, the way her brain works with the information from these grants. And like you said, all of the backup and having all of the, being able to answer any question for anyone there, whether it be the applicant or the reviewers. And so I think that's also something. That was an applause, virtual applause.
Yeah, and before you start, can I go get Amber so she can, she came in, she is
Please
not
do.
dressed as formally we request staff to dress, because we're trying now to clean up from our CJAC meetings. So give me a minute. I think it'd be nice for her to.
Well, you know what? Why don't you go ahead and, let me go get her break. That way you guys can cover anything else.
That so I just want to say jokingly that and I don't know if Judge Gonzalez is online with us. I know that he wanted to jump on, but you know, we were kidding about it earlier at our dispute resolution council. It only took me about 20 years to get this letter recommendation.
Actually, it's true. And this was Judge Gonzalez's idea. He mentioned it to me in a break, and then we decided to do it. And when I sent it out, and he messaged me and was like, we should have done this years ago. We should have done this years ago. And I'm like, we should have. We should have done this years ago. Hi.
This is Amber Ray.
All right, Amber, this is your letter. Dear Director Gutierrez, it is my pleasure to send this letter of recognition for Regional Services Technician and Program Support, Amber Ray, on behalf of the Criminal Justice Advisory Committee. Ms. Ray has provided invaluable assistance to the committee in our CJAC meetings this month. We met on April 6th and 7th, 2022 to rank and score approximately 30 criminal justice grants, with another meeting planned for April 13th to evaluate our results. Ms. Ray worked diligently throughout the week and over the weekend to ensure that all scores were properly computed, checked, double-checked, and compiled, with all results communicated to committee members by Monday, April the 11th, 2022. Ms. Ray's commitment to furthering the work of the CJAC is exemplary. Moreover, the committee could not have met our deadline without her efforts. The committee unanimously seeks to recognize Ms. Ray and request that this letter be read aloud at the next Board of Directors meeting, placed in her personnel file, and considered in her next employee evaluation. Thank you, Amber, for everything you did for our committee.
Thank you. I'm very humbled by this letter. You know, I just appreciate Marissa for everything that she does and all that she's taught me, and everyone here at the COG, and you too, I know, and all of the council. It's been amazing working with you all, so I thank you all.
Appreciate your hard work.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you.
All right, so we can get into the fun, Representative.
Sorry.
Scoring. Right?
Yes.
Scoring.
Important stuff here.
Do you want to take them all together, or do you want to do it?
No, we have to do them individually. Sorry.
We try to do this every year.
We have to do them individual.
Okay. So we got item number 8.
Do you have the confrontation?
So this is the Office of the Governor Criminal Justice Division.
Motion to approve?
Victim
Second.
Assistance Program Regional Priority List.
Okay, this one actually, one of the reasons we meet an extra day is because sometimes there are a few things we like to do a little differently than just going down the list. This is what happened with the VOCA. These are direct services to victims of crime. If you'll look and see, number 15 is the city of Presidio. There's a very complicated, this Renee Novato from Emergence Health Network came up with a very complicated process by which each grantee from number 1 through number 14 took less than a 2% deduction, and we were able to fund the city of Presidio for a victim assistant. You can see that the scores for the city of Presidio and UTEP were very, very close. And we were able to reach down and fund that for a very underserved community with a lot of that needed a victim services coordinator. So this is sort of one of the kind of magical things that the committee does is find a way to stretch dollars. And so that was something that was possible. If somebody's interested in how that happened, I have a whole page of how that computation was done.
I was not at that meeting, but I was part of the committee, and that was even hard for me to understand. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know what y'all did, but I trust you.
Yeah, so I brought that, and I want to thank Renee Novato for figuring that out. But it's sort of, it's one of the reasons that we meet an extra day, is because sometimes we're able to stretch those dollars just a little bit farther and not have anybody really feel it very much. The only applicant where that was not changed at all was the first ranking, the Family Crisis Center. But you can see that everybody took a little hit, and so the recommendation then is to fund 1 through 15.
Yes.
As you can see at the last of applicant 16, the total ask under VOCA funding was $3,241,722. Our budget expectation for FY23, we're looking at $2,854,000 with 99. So obviously we did go into this with a deficit, and so that is the extra work that the committee members do that third day. We're trying to see how many applicants can be funded without having to take huge cuts from the budget, since they already were requested to take a 10% reduction.
Right. One thing that the committee has talked about for probably at least 10 years, and this is the first year we've implemented, is sustainability. This is the first year, and we are the first CJAC in the state to require every one of our applicants to begin to implement sustainability into their grants. For continuing grantees, they must implement a 10% reduction in their grant budgets each year. And they also must show the committee all of their funding sources and how they plan to absorb the costs of their own grants down to 50% of the grant as they go forward each year. So it puts money back into the funding source for new grants. So we're not just funding the exact same grants every single year in the exact same amounts. So we have, we now have, it's built into our score sheet. We have a system that we'll now implement year after year. Marisa teaches all of the applicants this in the workshops. So now, instead of just talking about sustainability, it's built into our system.
And I believe that county commissioners, Commissioner Robinson and Sheriff Wiles, the county is going to talk about this at their next commissioners court. I don't know if it's going to be on the 2nd or the following Monday. But this is a good step that the county is actually starting to look at this, because it is going to be a 5-year gradual decrease on all grants. And it's on the grants that the committee prioritizes. So I know that there's like the Veterans Courts and other grants that go directly to the state for prioritization and review. Those are not affected. It's basically the ones that you have here in your notebook.
There's a county attorney's office, district attorney's office, sheriff department.
Right. It's
There's
Victims of
another one.
Crime Act, Violence Against Women Act, Juvenile Justice, JAG. And then the governor's office reviews various types of grants that they get put in. CSA.
Call the city out.
I know that. Oh, they didn't get any money. Don't worry. Yeah, that wasn't happening. No, the county. Yeah, they did.
They did.
It's another conversation.
So I'm hoping that
Y'all
you
were
all
nicer
from
than I would have been, but it's fine.
the city, and maybe you all can start looking at that as well.
Oh yeah, we talked about it when this application was turned in. Maybe somebody will listen now.
Yeah, we've talked about it for 10 years. We built it into our scoring sheet, but we didn't have it standardized. So it was sort of all over the place. And then we had a subcommittee that was tasked with standardizing and implementing it. So this is our first year. And we gave all the applicants second chances to submit everything and resubmit everything. So nobody was really penalized this year unless they didn't submit properly after a second chance. So
I know the city's got money because you're not spending it on street repairs.
Okay, we are not doing this right now.
and I'll tell you what,
I'm kidding.
the city of Marfa did street repairs yesterday and everybody called and complained about it.
That's because they don't mail the car. We are not.
The city of Marfa, everybody complained. I'm stuck in my house.
Get your people in.
There's a car on the street.
Why
Okay,
would you not?
do we,
mail?
is there a first and second on these items?
Yes,
All right, great.
Before you vote, I'd like, since there's a specific item for a position to the sheriff's office, I'd like to abstain.
Okay.
What was that?
Number.
You would be applicant 10, Sheriff Wiles, and then Mayor Avalos, you would be applicant 12.
We'll make a note of that.
All right. Is there any other additional comments or questions at this time? All right, hearing none, I will call to the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions at this time? All right,
Representative, who made the motion?
I made a motion to
And then
approve.
I second.
Sorry.
Representative Rivera, any closing comments? And, hearing none, motion passes. Okay,
Next item,
next item is
number 9,
number 9.
violence against women's and justice training.
Okay, follow it.
Violence Against Women Justice and Training Program by Ms. Quintanilla. Again, this is an action item.
Yes. Requesting board approval on the submittal of the FY23 regional priority list for the violent crimes against women's criminal justice and training projects. Again, the CJAG has reviewed and prioritized these applications, requesting approval to submit these, the regional priority list and to the Governor's Office Criminal Justice Division, as well as the resolution. So behind your agenda item, you do have the 2 applicants that provided applications into the fund source. And so you do have the scores and the recommended amounts by the committee. Ms. Todd?
This one, these are both El Paso County grants. These are both model programs. The protective order report came out on top by quite a bit. This year, there was, as everyone knows, a change in the in personnel in the Paso County District Attorney's Office. There's also changes to the grant for the Domestic Violence Outreach Initiative. When we read the grant, when we went through our packets, it seemed as if been an addition to an existing grant. At least that's what I thought. When the presentation was made, the existing program was dismantled and changed. And so there were discrepancies between the written grant and the grant as presented. And so that is the result. That's what resulted in the score, the scores being so different and the score being lower. So, because normally those scores are much closer. Normally, usually pretty much, a horse race on that. So, but, the change in administration has led to a change in that grant. And the grant is written to reflect the grant as it now is being implemented. And so the recommendation of the committee is to fund the protective order court. And so it would be not fully funded, unfortunately, because there were not existing funds in the RBE to do so, but to be funded at the funds that were given to us for this funding. And that is the recommendation.
Okay, are there any other questions and comments at this time? Representative Anello?
I would motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Okay,
Second.
I'm going to recognize Judge Guevara's second on that. And that is where we're at. Representative Rivera, additional comments at this time? All right, I will call the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Next, we have item number 10. Again, this is Public Safety Office, Office of the Governor's Criminal Justice Division, the FY23 SF State Criminal Justice Planning Juvenile Justice Regional Priority List. Again, presentation by Ms. Keaton.
Right. Requesting board approval on the submittal of the FY23 regional priority list for the juvenile justice and delinquency prevention applications and resolutions to the Governor's Office Criminal Justice Division. As you all know, that the committee met and the priority listing is behind your agenda item. Under this fund source, the total ask was $250,655. Our allocation is $103,004.
There's so many good projects that came before the committee. It just was really, really sad that we only received $103,000 for this entire funding source. Just,
it's a shame.
It was horrible. It was just
it's a shanda.
Yeah, absolutely. So the deficit in this funding source was almost $148,000. It's actually, credit to the committee to fund, 3 of these. Well, almost 3. But I think, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, one of the questions that we ask every applicant at the end of their presentation is, if you're funded at less than your total ask, will you be able to implement your program? And they answered that they would. So, 3 programs will be able to be implemented: the Boys and Girls Club program, Creative Kids, and Big Brothers Big Sisters. The other 2 programs, City of Socorro, which that looked like a great program. I don't know why, but they withdrew, but weren't able to fund the TIP program, which is a great program, or the Project Vida program. But the recommendation of the committee is to fund projects 1 and 2 fully, and project 3 at $43,499.
Move to approve. Okay, we have a motion by Sheriff Wiles. Is there a second?
Second. Oh.
Second by Representative Rivera, the teacher's pet for Rio Grande Council of Governments. All right, we have a motion. Any other additional comments or concerns? Commissioner Robinson, anything, sir?
No. Let's move
I will call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item number 11, 11, we have again from the Office of the Government Justice Division, an FY23 DJ Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant Program Regional Priority List, again presented by Ms. Quintanilla.
Board of Directors requesting approval on the submittal of the FY23 Regional Priority List, along with the resolution affirming that the CJAC has reviewed, scored, and ranked and prioritized these applications, and then to be submitted to the Governor's Office Criminal Justice Division. Behind your agenda item, you have the Regional Priority List. Ms. Todd?
This is our JAG. This goes to help projects that are for law enforcement based. We had 7 applicants. We're able to fund 6 fully, and the 7th for the purchase of a mobile response trailer. Brothers Big Sisters, El Paso County CIT, City of Alpine mobile security cameras, Socorro ISD body worn cameras, El Paso ISD 9 unit, Alpine school project, and the city for a mobile response trailer. What was not funded was El Paso. Y'all had asked for a project to like convert all of your old files from like microfiche, which it was really funny because our friend Cody, who was like the emergency services coordinator for Hudspeth for Culberson County, is like, what's a microfiche? Yeah, so it was
Delicious kind of fish.
yeah, exactly. He was like, I don't know what that is. Yeah, so I love y'all, but I got to be perfectly honest. People felt like that needed to be done with local dollars.
Well, and I'd also say the committee in the past has never been so friendly to funding K-9 units. And you can see that they got a better score than the city of El Paso. And we had this conversation at council about it. So I would just ask my colleagues to continue this conversation.
There was even an issue whether that was supplanting.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I wrote it on my score sheet, supplanting. So, right. So, but yeah, in JAG, usually it ends up being a real mixed bag of things. It ends up, you know, being different kinds of equipment and gang prevention and crisis intervention. So it's a very mixed bag of things. But this year it wasn't microfiche.
So that
but there's not enough money to go around for it to be microfiche.
So that application actually had 2 activities, was the microfiche and the purchase of a regional trailer.
But everybody wanted the trailer. Everybody thought the trailer was like
People love trailers.
But also
completely kosher.
Look at the price of the trailer compared to the entire ask. It's like 1/20th of the price.
Right.
And that was the largest ask of the entire amount requested. So, yeah, and the committee also does have a preference for trying to fund as many things as possible. That is very definitely something that we like to do, is see how, you know, we'd like to try to spread grant monies around, and also try to fund as many things as we can, both, you know, in the El Paso area and in the region. So, so the recommendation is to fund 1 through 6 fully and 7 for the purchase of the mobile response trailer.
Go ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
Shouldn't be making those motions.
Is there any other comments, Representative Vanello? I know you feel very passionate about this.
I mean, I just would ask for council support when this comes up to council. We talk about this all the time. I mean, they at council said we couldn't apply for body cameras. You see, that's not true. It cannot just be this committee and myself having the conversation.
So there was 2 things. Actually, right from PD, because so for body cameras, that first round that happened back in October, November, the one that the city applied for, was only for municipalities and counties. So like Socorro ISD was not able to apply under that fund source. So
We're a
because
municipality.
I'm sorry, Socorro ISD.
Oh, you're talking about the first round.
Yeah, the first
Okay.
round. So because they wanted to apply under that solicitation and they weren't eligible, but under the JAG program, then the school districts, anybody else was able to apply for those body cameras. Right.
And I think stuff like that's really compelling. I mean, that's safety stuff, you know?
I mean, yeah, there's a larger conversation too. I mean, we go back to the Homeland Security grants in the city of El Paso. It's the same conversation. And I love when Marisa does that eyebrow thing. It's my favorite.
What I'm thinking is that perhaps just to, not to take away from these important conversations, but we are getting close to noon.
Sorry.
And I don't want to lose quorum. So if we could possibly vote on this agenda item and then.
This one,
Yeah, well,
I'll be
yes.
abstaining since Socorro ISD is my employer.
All right. Please make note of it when we all vote.
Me too, because item number 2 is specific positions within my agency.
Anybody else feel like
And
abstaining?
I'm so glad those grants are funded. Those are wonderful programs. I'm so glad.
And my intent is to provide service into the city.
Thank you. Someone
Good.
needs to. Sorry.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Call the question.
That CIT is amazing.
All right,
That's a great program.
we'll call the question and all in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
all opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, please note for the record, Sheriff Files and Alderman Padilla are abstaining. All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item number 12 is again from the Office of the Governor's Criminal Justice Division. It's the FY23 TP Truancy Prevention Grant Program Regional Priority List presented once again by Ms. Quintanilla.
Right. Board members, again, behind the agenda item is the regional priority listing, and I'll just go ahead and yield to Todd.
We had one applicant. The ask, we had originally asked this applicant to reduce their budget 10%. The ask, the budget, the RBE was based on the original amount. And so we went ahead and restored full funding without the 10% because the state based the amount they gave us on the original budget. And so we didn't think it was fair to cut their budget when the state was giving us the full ask. We didn't want to send money back. So the recommendation is to fund Alpine ISD at $113,187.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Item number 13, again from the Office of the Governor's Criminal Justice Division, FY23 VA CSE Commercial Sexual Exploitation Regional Review List. Ms. Quintanilla.
So Board of Directors, this is a little bit different. The Governor's Office requests for the Criminal Justice Advisory to go ahead and review these applications and provide comment. And so you see basically behind the agenda item that their score is a little bit different. It's a score from 1 to 5, and so 5 being the highest. And then also this was a little different because the committee also requested for those applications to also be scored through our internal score sheet. And I apologize. Oh, you do have the score sheet. I'm sorry, the internal scores under that column. And then the 1 through 5 score is basically the one that is submitted to the governor's office. And I'll yield to Ms. Tosh.
These are the ones that the state funds them fully. So you can see they have really, except for the first 2, which scored the highest, numbers 3 and 4 have really huge budgets. So what happens, and this is CSA, so these are victims of commercial sexual exploitation. So what happens is they have these huge budgets and then they force them into VOCA where they can't get funded at this amount. So what we have asked these folks to do is we also score them with our internal scores to give them an idea of what will happen when they come into our committee scoring, so you can see that. And we send comments to the state, so you can see that in our CJAC comments. And you can also see that our committee digs pretty deep. So, because the process for them when they come through our committee process is pretty painful after the state's just given them like $600,000. So our internal score is just that. The state is fully funding them. So there's, these are just our comments and just trying to help them ease into the process when they come through our committee next year.
So just historical information, usually what happens, the state will go ahead and based on the governor's blueprint, will go ahead and initiate special programs. And this is one of them. And so these applicants are funded under VOCA, your Victims of Crime Act dollars at the state level. So eventually those dollars will go ahead and start to diminish. And when that happens, then those applicants are sent to the committee for prioritization. So they do start with about $900,000 of a budget, $600,000 of a budget. So when they come to us at the committee level, there's just, the money's just not there. And so basically going back to the sustainability, and those applicants are aware of sustainability, if you are not funded, how are you going to sustain this project? And so just kind of gives those applicants, hey, this is going to come. It might not happen in 23, but it might happen in 24. So you need to be prepared.
And last year when we met with the state, the other committees had to spend all this time trying to figure out how they were going to prioritize things. But since we'd already had the third meeting, we did it. So we spent all our time saying, hey, this is a really cruel system that you force these applicants into, giving them all this money. And, they hired, 10 staff members. And then, they're forced into the system where we don't have the money for this. And, they've hired all these people and, so anyway.
On this one, you still would need a motion, right, to approve this one as well?
Sure do.
Just to accept the comments?
I don't know what we need. What do we do?
So when you accept the regional priority listing, it includes the comments as well.
Okay.
To be submitted to the governor's office.
Move to approve.
What was that second from? All right, so motion by Representative Nejo, seconded by Sheriff Wiles.
Chair, I have a quick follow-up.
We have a question? Judge Cano, sir, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Make sure you hear me or not?
Judge Cano, you have, I think, two systems going on. You're a lot of feedback.
How's that?
Kind of well.
But different.
Okay, let's try it again.
Okay.
Can you type them in the chat?
Okay, I think he's letting us go on.
Is there any other questions?
Yeah, or he's texting.
He's texting.
He's calling.
All right, let's try it again now.
This is
Sound
fun.
away.
Okay, President. No, I was just going to comment that I agree with everything as far as sustainability. That I feel like it's our responsibility at this point to make sure moving forward that we hold everybody accountable to what the plan is and what's been implemented. I think it's a really good design, but I think it's going to be up to us to almost coach and condition the grantors. Just to understand and accept the fact that, years 2, 3, and 4, as far as the funding and the amount of funding, how it's going to be modified, according to the plan, and that we, as a board and as a committees and whatnot, that we make sure to hold everybody accountable, including ourselves, to make sure we're holding them accountable. And that's it.
Yep, we agree.
Good comments.
I do think that the sustainability option, I think, is an important one moving forward. I also think too that when we look at a larger conversation with our regional governments, looking at UN Sustainable UN SDG goals is another important benchmark as well. There's sustainable development goals.
And a lot of this is really put on us by the state because of this, because they are forcing other grants into our system.
Well, but at the same time, I mean, listen, it's a conversation that's had long before I was on the committee, but since I've been on the committee, right? I mean, there's also needs to be room for other programs to be able to access dollars. And so it's a hard conversation. But we also know that, you know, this can be changed at any time. Another committee can come in and say, this isn't working out the way that we thought, we're going to change it. But I think that it is a conversation that's happened for so long that we need to try and see what happens.
It's true. And we need to make room. I mean, these folks, you know, we need to make room for folks who've been victims of commercial sexual exploitation.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we need to be helping these folks.
I will say something that we don't do, which a lot of other people who administer grants are doing, is we don't look at outcomes. And you know, for good or bad, right? I mean, we can be the committee that doesn't look at outcomes and gives opportunities, or we can start to have that conversation. I don't know why I even brought that up. That's just starting a whole other conversation. And that is like, we gotta go.
No, we did. I mean, I brought up with some of the applicants. I'm like, you don't have any outcomes listed.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but a lot of these people, I mean, I'll just say that the district attorney's office, you know, one of the grants was there specifically to fund one of their programs. They have essentially disqualified themselves for that funding for the first time ever.
Right. And that was a model program. Programs all over the United States are modeled on that program.
Which is a whole other conversation we don't have to have right now. But I'm just saying it also now, you know, I think it was the county attorney's office that fully got funded. They always kind of got the brunt of that funding. You know, it was like, do we give them a little bit and just fund the district attorney's office? They're now able to get more funding from this program. And maybe next year there'll be another group from whether the county attorney's office or someone else saying, oh, now there's dollars available. Let's see what we can do. You know,
you don't
we
need to be
open those
static and just fund the
opportunities,
same things over and over. I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And if it doesn't work, it changes, which is unfortunate.
We haven't voted on the motion yet, though.
All right, there's a motion by Representative Venejo, seconded by Sheriff Wiles. Any other comments or questions at this time? Hearing none, I will call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And I think we are now up to
We're at the very tail end. Yes. So executive director's report. These are just some of the activities that I was participating in the month of April. Just most recently came back last night from Houston from the Southwest Regional Economic Development Association conference. And I had the privilege of presenting the application from UTEP for the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. And so just once again, I really do think they have a great opportunity, a great chance for funding. And so we're very hopeful of that. And also there's some other programs that were offered that maybe we could look to possibly applying for some of our school districts. So that will conclude my report, but if there's anything you would like to present under President's report.
no, I mean, I think we're all pretty much working as hard as we can, hoping that another variant doesn't come through right now. You know, this has all been a challenge. 2022 so far has been, you know, a lot of different challenges and unexpected challenges as well. But I think that we're all working towards the betterment of our communities as well. And all think about and pray for those that are suffering right now in needless war and other challenges as well. So with that said, I look forward to the rest of the term here and looking forward to the summer as well.
Any other announcements from anyone?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Fort Davis meeting, is that next month?
So we're looking at having our regional meeting out in Fort Davis if High Frontier is ready. If it's not, okay, so
they had a wedding.
So we would look at that in June.
Okay.
June. And so traditionally we've had a May meeting to cover all of the criminal justice items that Marisa covered, but because the Public Safety Office accelerated their timeline, their deadline, we are now going to be submitting that next week. So I don't see where we will be having a May meeting unless any action items come up. So Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever the case is. So we may not meet in May. And again, if we don't have any action items, then we will not meet because I want to save your time and have you there in Fort Davis for June.
Yeah, I just sent you Emily's.
Yes, yes. And we've been talking, there's just,
Oh,
I
did
think
I
some
already
items
do
that
that?
still needed to be updated, but that's all we have. So if anybody wants to.
Is there any
make
other
a motion to
announcements?
adjourn.
I would like to make another announcement. Aside from my work here, a lot of you know that I'm very passionate and engaged with Sister Cities International. Been vice chair of the board of directors there on the national board for the last 2 years. And on July 6th, we're having our spring board meeting. I'll be sworn in as the chair of the board for the next 2 years. So if anybody feels like coming out to Santa Fe, it's in Santa Fe. It's close to there. So there's also a number of throughout as well. There's a Mexico Sister Cities Mayor's Community Summit, September 28th through October 1st. The previous U.S.-Mexico Mayor Summits have had about 400 attendees, close to 80 mayors. The first was in 2018, Guadalajara, right underneath the shadow of COVID, February 26th or 28th in El Paso and Juarez. And so that should be a lot of fun. And then Representative Vanilla, was very excited about this one. Sister Cities is doing a
Anybody would like to sponsor me?
Sister City Africa Regional Summit, focusing on the connections between African and U.S. sister cities and the relationships and partnerships between the two. So that should be very exciting. That'll be in Cape Town, South Africa in February of 2023. If anybody's interested in learning more, please let me know as well. And so you can email my office at district1@elpaso.texas.gov. With that, we have a motion to adjourn unless Representative Rivera, you have any closing comments, sir?
Oh, is there a who would make the motion? to
So
adjourn?
moved. Oh, there, no, she got it.
Go ahead.
Second.
Okay, so.
All in favor?
Mayor,
Aye.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Always good to see you.